Hey guys, good afternoon. Today we're going to be doing our first little tutorial, if you will. It's myself, Israel, and Gary, um, part of the gang. We're all part of the gang. The gang that brings you the round table show. Um, we plan on doing many of these in the future. This is so bear with us. This is our first trial episode, if you will. We're going to get into today a little bit about cameras and photographing your evident scene. And with that being said, these guys are a little more savvy when it comes to that end of things. So um, hey, you want to kick it off, Israel, with that?
Yes,
Gary,
sir.
whoever.
How's, how's it going, guys?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Good, bud.
Yeah.
Good.
Um, and just like a disclaimer, like I always say, what we talk about here is our experiences as far as how we use our equipment and stuff like that. For the people who are listening and joining in, I challenge you to go do your research on what camera system, what recording system you would like. We have a specific one that we use, and we've already talked about this beforehand. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have one that works for your specific needs. Some cameras have some things that some others, just like anything else, is just put by preference. So with that being said, Gary, if you want to talk about your equipment real quick, and then we'll start out from there.
I got to do a disclaimer here. The only professional in this field is Mr. Israel because of his profession with working for the greatest U.S. military branch in the world, and that would be the U.S. Army. But I've had a lot of the same training that Israel has had, and Jeremiah and Israel had reached out to me about bringing my equipment on because I've spent years developing this, and uh, we'll talk about the equipment, and then and now this is pretty close to what you use professionally, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, I tell everybody the first thing, everybody has a good phone. I mean, most everybody keeps up to date phones, and these phones, especially if you've got anything from the iPhone 6 up, the S10 Plus, any of the Note 10, Note 6 up, has anywhere from 19 to 25 megapixel cameras on them. I tell people now, folks, this stems from doing photography and, of course, paranormal research. I prefer to use an outsourced app to control my camera because it opens up all the potential of the camera in the phone. And depending on if it's iPhone, I don't deal with iPhone. I do Android. I use One Shot is what I use. But to me, this is probably one of the best items that most anybody has as a investigator, whether it be paranormal or cryptid investigator, because you have it in your pocket all the time. There's audio recording apps, there's video recording apps, there's you can shoot stills with it. It does have a good flash on it. It's got a built-in flashlight too. Uh, that's the first thing I tell people because most everybody has one in their pocket, and you can accessorize one of these with exterior microphones, shotgun microphones. I use the same shotgun microphone for my phone that I do for my DSLR, connecting through a TRS plug. uh, I use 90% of my audio recording when I'm doing an interview. I have a Lavu mic run into my phone in my pocket, and I'm recording directly to my phone because most everybody knows how to use a phone and how to transfer files that way. Um, Camera wise, to me, uh, Israel wanted to jump right on the equipment, and I think once we cover the equipment, we probably need to roll right into the how would we say, the format of how you would use that equipment, because that is a key point in using it. Most forensic folks use a good DSLR. Some of them use multiple lenses. I use a kit lens, what I always called a kit. This is a 20 millimeter to 200, and it'll shoot up close. It'll shoot long distance. I can, and with the DSLR, I mean, there's great videos. A lot of you folks probably already know how to use one. A lot of folks just use like the little, the Kodak Coolpix, you know, digital cameras.
Mm.
I myself, I believe in multifunction, coming from the survival background that I do. I like to have, I shoot all my YouTube videos with this. I shoot all my evidence collection with this. I shoot, we actually use this rascal right here to shoot weddings. I mean, we use, it covers such a broad spectrum. To me, it's one of the best kits, you know, best tools you can get for your kit. And they're a little bit, I mean, you can get into one for about 500 or 600, but the video quality, this is 24 megapixel, single sensor. Low light is good. There's a lot of cameras out here. This is the D3200. There are a lot of cameras out there that are a lot better, but everybody knows my show's called Poor Boys. I got this thing fairly cheap, but you can multiple lenses. I've got everything from 2000 millimeter zoom that I can reach out almost a mile to little 20 millimeter extra wide lens that I just did an atrocity by putting a fingerprint on the lens itself. But
Do you have any macro lens?
yes, I don't have them in here with me. They're in the other case in there. But yes, I do use macros. I use a double macro. The only thing that I haven't got into yet is the night, you know, like infrared and stuff. Some of you guys like using infrared, but I do have macro lenses. I think you've got macro too in your kit, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I haven't gotten it to the level of using them yet, using, you know, all the different, and that's where you'll come in of where to, at what situation you would want to use those. Lighting is a key thing for me. You know, half the time, if you're cryptid investigation, you're at night, and
Mm.
there is no replacement for sunlight. But we had touched on it a show or two back with the Skookum sessions about changing the level and the angle of the light. A lot of times I'll take this and have it in one hand and have the camera here, and I'll literally just set my camera at like a 36 shot burst, and I'll just move. If I'm taking a picture of a track, I'll move this light around as I'm shooting that 36 shot burst. That way it shows the different angles of
The ridges and stuff.
Absolutely, and shadow.
Yep.
And then when you go into your post edit, if you use the right programs, you can literally do a motion stop almost of the different levels. But the main thing that I recommend, I think I paid $30 for this, and people laugh at me. I love LED, external battery power, but it's adjustable. Is, you know, I can adjust it down and adjust it up.
No, that's bright.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
but believe it or not, this thing has been used more than once as our main spotlight when we're squatching, because it's just easy to run. Now, one other thing that I do run, and people laugh at me, I've got multiple setups, but I do run a flash, an external adjustable brightness flash. If I'm taking pictures of, say, tracks and stuff, a lot of the times you want that burst of light right as you're open and closing inside your camera, you know, your lenses and everything, aperture, excuse me, and I can adjust it to get different lighting, and it also adjusts up and down. A lot of people just use the flash on their camera, but in an outdoor setting, sometimes that flash on that camera, you want to be able to focus it down even closer down onto the track that you're taking.
What's
So if
cool
you
about
got-
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go. I was just going to say, so if you got like what you just showed, Gary, that external flash, do you want for someone out there that's, you know, taking a picture of a track, okay? Do you want the flash on that? Say they're using their phone, okay? Do you want the flash on the phone off?
Okay, if you've got the external flash, that would not be feasible with the phone, because the phone doesn't have a option. This is strictly for the DSLR.
Gotcha.
DSLR has a actuator inside the camera that
Okay.
I'm not going to run y'all's view. But then what would happen is, as the apertures open up and everything inside the camera, the flash comes on.
Okay.
With a phone, I just do it like we was talking about. I just hold my phone in one hand, and you can do it with a good flashlight. You know, I prefer the big squared LED because it gives it a softer light. But I mean, you can do the same thing with a flashlight. Just carry a nice, a lot of you guys are carrying the tactical style LED flashlights, which are awesome. I've got 5 or 6 of them, and just use it. But at certain periods of time, especially for me, at low level, right at dusk to dawn or dawn to dusk, right as you're getting into the gray area, doing this is just on actually just make your tracks just look worse. Using the instantaneous flash is going to override any external light sources coming in.
And I was going to say that we use that a lot. The versatility for that, you can make it go at any angle that you want, and the beauty about that is that the light is actually bouncing. So let's say if you're in a highly dense area, a lot of trees and a lot of coverage, you can actually make it look up and it bounces. It could bounce the light off, and then it'll come back to you, and that's how you get the perfect picture without any shadows. It takes practice, but it can be done. But that's the term.
You're talking about like if the camera's here, you adjust the light up.
You adjust it because if you were in that room right now, you don't want it directly at the item. You want it to bounce off the walls or off the ceiling or somewhere to make it look like like the lights are in the room.
Absolutely, indirect exposures.
Indirect exposure. Absolutely.
To me, and folks, I mean, realistically, this kit, I mean, this is not for everybody. A lot of folks can't afford it. I've been able to justify it because we do video production and everything else, but you can get into one of these kits for, I mean, you can go buy a good DSLR with a lens kit and everything for, $500-600 now. And then the external flashes, you're talking $40-50. And to me, it's just one of the most versatile pieces of equipment that I use, because I've got my shotgun mic. I can plug external microphones directly into it and shoot interior videos. There's so many, and the beauty of the DSLR for me, I'm kind of old fashioned anyway, but being able to adjust on the fly.
I love it.
Yes, being able to adjust your depth of field and adjust your focus and everything, it just changes. And once again, I have to get on the principle of it. Somebody that shows me a picture of one track and one photo, and I'm like, where's the rest of it? I want to see the like you was talking about earlier, Israel, and we was talking about the other day. I'll set this thing up on a tripod, or I'll put somebody holding it that 10, 12 feet back and show me next to the tracks. And that way you get a full physical spectrum of the environment that the track's in, because just a picture of a track with a dollar bill laying next to it, that's fine, but that's only one piece of the puzzle,
That's funny that you should say that, because I was just thinking, I wrote it down actually, because so the basic techniques, and this would go on to what to expect if you're out there, right? Yeah. The first thing I would do if I were to come up on some prints, obviously, like we were talking about the other day, you want to stop your tracks. You want to stop where you're going. Make sure you flag it some way that you know where it's at, but you want to backtrack a little bit where you step that you know that there's no tracks, and then start shooting what we call establishing shots. Absolutely. It could be a quick one. It doesn't have to be a lot, but the beauty about digital is what you get a nice SD card, and you can take pictures forever. So that's the beauty of it. Just absolutely snap pictures away. What they also teach us is to use different settings on there to make it where if you take a picture, you take 3 pictures, and one's going to be underexposed and the other one's going to be overexposed. And I know Gary knows about that. Less light, more light, and then it allows you to pick which. If you want the middle one or if you want more exposure. After you take that establishing shots, you want to start walking in, and then you want overlapping shots, because you're going to be closer. So obviously, if you don't have one with wide lens, you're not going to get the full, like he said, like Gary said, you're not going to get the full spectrum. So you get it you overlap it. So you take a picture here, then you go overlap it and take a picture, you overlap it like that, okay? So when you go back home and you start looking at it, you can see the full view.
Absolutely. And that is one of the beauties of the cameras in the phones now. If you use and I use them side by side, I can run my DSLR with one hand and have my phone, but your phone, if you use the right app, has a panoramic shot. So you're literally you're taking taking, and it automatically does it for you. And then another thing that I do is if I've just got my DSLR, I switch over to video mode for a few minutes, and I just pan, with the video as I come in. And Israel, I'm going to back you 100%. I'm a true believer in that old school, not the real old school, because they was all about getting the numbers right. But you can't take too many pictures.
Yeah.
You take
as much.
You can always delete them on the digital instant. Get rid of them. It's not like you're spending money developing film. To take different angles. I mean, as I'm coming in, I'm taking pictures from up here. I've been known to walk into a place with the camera over my head at like 8 foot because I want to get what a Sasquatch would be looking at. If they're 8 feet tall, I want to see the terrain at their level. And people's like, why? I'm like, for the simple fact, if I'm looking up here, I like to tell a story with my investigations. If I'm coming in, I'll either do it with video or I'll do it with still shots and just walk in shooting. You're seeing why he took that step to where he did from his angle. At a human level, you might not be able to see what he sees.
Right.
Another thing is that goes to what you were saying, comparison shots. If you don't have somebody that can stand beside the print, at least put something beside it and take 15, 20 feet back so you can get the full tree to see, like you just said. Absolutely. That maybe you can compare. You say, hey, because sometimes how you go to a building and you take a picture and you send it to somebody and they don't quite get the grasp of how big it is, because you're taking the picture by itself, the building by itself. Now, if you stand beside the building, they're like, holy crap, this is you and this is the building. So we kind of got to get into the mindset of that, taking pictures like that, comparison shots.
Absolutely.
And then after comparison shots is when you start going to the actual print. We got close up with and without scale. There's tons of scales that you can use. I know this is a square that I use for woodworking, but they have plastic ones. You can put the print right here. Okay. But they sell some that are like plastic, so you can clean them up afterwards. Or you can carry around one of those, but that's just extra equipment that, extra weight. And the other plastic ones don't weigh nothing.
I tell people it's funny, you get them at Lowe's, but I carry a 6 foot, just cheap dollar store Harbor Freight tape measure. It's
same here. Yep.
And that way you can measure. There you go. You carry a 12. I usually carry a 6 because they're a little bit smaller. They'll slide in my pocket, and you can measure the strides. You can measure and you can lay it out. And to me, it's just so much easier than. There's no what's the word I'm looking for? There's no room for different interpretation if you have a scaled ruler next to it. If you put a dollar bill there, they could say, oh, the placement of the dollar bill is a little bit hanky. Or if you put your phone there, well, we're not for sure what your phone is. And folks, you can use anything. I mean, you can use your own foot and then lay a ruler out next to your foot later. But to me, if I know I'm going into the field to investigate, or if I'm going to go search a report, I carry a backpack with me that has the equipment in it. It doesn't take very long to carry it with me. And I know a lot of you folks are happenstance upon this stuff. Well, I'm getting to where I carry that 6 foot tape measure on my keychain. That is my keychain. Just for the simple fact that I find myself using it so much, measuring out stuff. But
get the length of the foot along with I usually measure the ball too, ball of the foot as well as the.
The other night, and Israel will be right on this. The other night, Patrick was talking about how the bilaterals,
measure
the length, the heel, right at the mid, what I call mid tarsal, but it's not a mid tarsal break. It's just right at the middle of the foot and up around the toes. And I've even been known to measure from the heel to the inside of the toes.
Yep.
And then from the inside of the toes to the outside of the toes to give me a perspective of how big the phalanges are on the track. But
it's definitely very important.
One thing that I wanted to backtrack that Israel was hitting on, that to me is one of the most important things when you're coming up on a trail or on an investigative site is what I've always called bilateral contamination. When you know there's a track there, limit the amount of people that's coming in as much as you can. Be very mindful of where you're placing your own feet, because you never know what might be there. You know, a hair might have dropped off. Israel, how many cases has been won with they found hair samples or a casing laying in between two strides as a person's running, and something falls out of their pocket or something, you know. And I believe that the bilateral contamination is the biggest downfall for most investigators, because they oh man, come look at this track I found, and they bring their buddies in, and you got 10 people in an area walking around. I mean, what's the first thing y'all do on the investigation site, Israel, when you walk into
they secure the scene and everybody's out.
Yeah.
Everybody's out.
Yeah.
And then the people who were there, obviously you either take their prints or whatever to eliminate them from any potential suspect.
Well, and folks, once again, I have to allude to that. Me and Israel's had a lot of the same training with our criminal justice backgrounds, and another thing too is as soon as they pull, in my cases, when they pulled us out of, like if I was the first responding officer, they pulled us out. One of the detectives took us aside. Okay, where did you step?
Quick.
How did you step? While it's fresh on your mind, did you touch anything? If you did, what did you touch? You know, and I understand for cryptid investigation that's not possible at all times, but if we can keep that mentality of a level of what's the word I'm looking for, professionality behind it, that I think unilaterally across the community, if we can set these standards like we're talking about today, will dramatically increase the amount of evidence that we gather.
And then part of this this show too is to give people ways that they can train, because like they say, you train as you fight, right? So my advice would be, once they pick up the phone or once they pick up whatever equipment that they're going to use, they use it around the house, taking pictures all the time. Practice at nighttime, like he said, like Gary said, take multiples at nighttime, because the time when you actually get the print is not the time to start trying to figuring out your camera.
Exactly.
Because it might be raining, or it might be, time's of an essence. Sometimes you have that time, the luxury to play around with it, but most of the time, hand placement and everything, you don't really need a tripod for your hands, but put your hands are your tripod. You put them together, if you can see, and that's how I grab mine. You hold it like a weapon, right?
Absolutely.
Got your front hand is holding it, and this right here, you can adjust it. And when you hit the button, you're not, it's the same thing as shooting, right? You got to control your breathing, right?
Yes.
Because you push that button too fast, the picture is going to look blurry. So again, control the breathing, and it applies the same thing. So hand placement and elbows into your body. It gives it a bigger place so you won't be rocking back and forth. That's if you're going to take it without the tripod. Obviously, if you have the tripod, then you don't need all those techniques. What else? Proper cleaning. Make sure that your equipment is always clean, because like Gary said a little while ago, sometimes you may be moving the lens around and you accidentally hit it with your thumb. You leave a thumbprint or something, and you forget about it. Then you start taking pictures, and as much as you can change the settings inside, it's not going to look good because you already have contaminated inside. So make sure you clean your equipment every day that you're going to use it. Make sure the batteries, have that in mind again. We always have extra batteries. This is what I use the charger with, very compact. Again, the batteries aren't that expensive, and SD cards aren't expensive. Now they got 1 terabytes that are a couple bucks. Get your little booklet and throw something in there. This one specifically has the capability to have 2 SD cards, which helps out because you don't have to really worry about that. Like you said, we can keep on snapping pictures. What else? Practice with the shutter speed for movement. When we were taught, there's different online that you can go to YouTube and they have better videos. But once you learn that the shutter speed is for like people doing sports, one way you can train with that is turning on your water on tap, and then playing around with the settings. And you'll see the faster you go, it'll stop it versus making it look like it's flowing. Did you guys ever practice like that, Gary?
Yes, sir. Still working on that. Yes.
Still working, yeah, because that's a big one because you try to take a picture. If people have animals and stuff like that, put them outside and try to take pictures of them when they're running. That's a perfect time to use it. Because it's just like, again, I'm gonna say it again, it's just like shooting. You have to follow him and then know beforehand where you're gonna shoot the shot.
Okay, on just what you was just saying, and folks, please understand that I am not a professional by any means.
Neither am I.
Well, technically you would be, because you are making a living doing exactly what we're discussing, and that is collecting evidence. But what I'm doing now is I'm hoping I'm not blowing everybody up here with all this craziness going on. Can y'all see the screen behind me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. With the shutter speed and the adjustments on the camera, I was playing in my backyard one night about midnight, and these two pictures was taking one right after the other, with my wife just kind of playing with the shutter speed. The first one is a regular daytime style shot with the shutter speed, and you see how dark and opaque it is back here, and how what we call noise in the photographical world. And this is with this DSLR. Now, folks, I have to tell you this. Now, when you was to look at this shot with the naked eye, you could not see me back there at all. This was with the camera, and this will give you a true example of how good these cameras are now. Now, this was the next shot she did by adjusting the shutter speed on it.
Wow.
And see how this is a very low light situation. There's a light in the front by the shed, one of the floodlights that comes down, but back there where I'm standing, it is pitch black. I was trying to find a comparison shot, but I mean, that's just showing you that if you practice some of the results you can get with the shutter speed on a camera, and most of your phones will do that also. The cameras in the phones are the same, have the same sense, not a lot of times not the same sensors as DSLR, but you can adjust the shutter speed if you get the right app. Most people just shoot them on the automatic setting, but this is the stuff that we do. I mean, we practice on a regular basis with our photography, and even like Israel was saying, even with the tracking, I'll go to the farm and I'll have my dog run around the yard and run through the brush, and then I'll go try to track him. And you think it's hard tracking a human or something like that. You try to track a four-legged, brute back here. Okay.
So it's like you said, the camera can do a lot. That's why I say we're just talking about all the techniques that we know. But quite truthfully, the class that I went to, it was 2.5 weeks, and that's 8-hour days, like learning about the f-stops and learning the different apertures and what priority and speed and aperture and manual. The funny thing you said about automatic, the first day that we got there, they said, okay, turn the cameras on after they show you all the components. They said, all right, put it on automatic and take a picture. So everybody did it. And then they said that'd be the last time you take a picture on automatic. And that is the last time, because once you figure out how to do it, how to work with everything else, automatic just looks horrible.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, it's so bad. And I absolutely love it.
It's that, well, like you said, it's less for guys. Once you get used to using it, it's like, why? I mean, I can do so much better, and it's more fun for me. I have one kit that's an automatic focus. Everything else is all manual, everything. And you can do so much more with it. I mean, it would be like, a person, well, we'll say driving. I mean, if you got a Model T Ford sitting in your driveway and you got a Porsche 911 with air conditioning and everything else, which are you going to drive all day long?
Yep. So yeah, and stuff like practice on when thunderstorms come through. Try to capture those because it's all about time. Photography is all about patience. It really is.
Oh yeah.
They tell you to get the best pictures are the people that wake up super early and get to the place on time. They even scope out the places. I saw professional photographers. They get the good angles because they scope out the place. That's not always available if you're walking through the woods and something new, but if you know your woods and you know your area, you know the high points, you know the low points, you know where the light hits better when there's the moon, you know all those places. So you know where to control or put certain settings on one side versus other sides, which leads me to another one. These cameras too have settings on there that you can pre-put your settings for different areas. Have you ever
Almost like a separate folder, wouldn't it be? Does yours set up multiple?
This right here is got user 1 and user 2. So let's say if you wanted to use it, I'll keep it as user 1, and then I flip it over to user 2, and then it just puts whatever I want or whatever my likings are. What else we got on here? It does say scene on here. I have to, again, I'd have to, there's so many things that you can do with these cameras. I'd have to play around with it to see on that one. On mine specifically, you can also make it quiet. So you won't be scaring anything that's around, because these cameras can be pretty loud. At least this one can when it snaps it. So it's, let me see if I can, let me see if we can. That's on scene. Yep, I don't want to take picture. There we go. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's put it on quiet now to see if it makes any. You didn't hear it. I mean, you hear a little bit, but it's not as much as it is on regular mode. Okay. I think that's it for at least the camera itself. I know you have Jeremiah, you have a camera as well.
Yes. Just a little, just picked it up, and as you all know, I'm not very tech savvy, but picked this up at Walmart. I think it's like $49. 24 megapixel. And Gary, as you were saying earlier, that's what I mean. As far as the pixels go, you know, that's sufficient, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and as far as, you know, with this, you can go still shot or video format with it. As far as you know, 7.362 millimeters, 16, you know, 16 zoom, 16x zoom, whatever the hell that means. You know what I mean? And like I said, I'm very tech savvy. I know that's not a lot, but it'll do the trick. You know, I gotta like Israel was saying. You know, it's just practice. I gotta play around with it. You know, a lot more. You know, it's all about practice. You know,
The thing I like about that one is that it secures to your hand.
yes.
Because you know, sometimes if it's the person's first experience, heart rate is going to be up and they're going to be possibly running or whatever. So you don't want to lose your equipment. So
Right.
that's a good way to secure your stuff.
Exactly. And it's got you can, you know, transfer everything over from this, you know, with a USB cord onto your computer, or actually, you know, your hook it right up to your TV and check out what you just captured. So not very, not expensive at all.
Good.
Like
Great
I said,
starter camera.
it is. Yeah. You know, and $49. You know,
And here's a key factor, and I don't want anybody at any stage, and I know there's a lot of guys out here that are by far more experienced, you know, than we are. You know, we got folks, I'm going to drop a name or two. You know, we got people like Dan Nadrelio, that's a professional
Oh, yeah.
photographer. We got Steve Baxter's another great photographer that are into this. But let's say that if a person was just coming into this, and that's what these tutorials are. We're going to cover with Israel's help and Jeremiah's help. I'm hoping that we cover every spectrum. This is just kind of an introductory video that we're doing now. But if you're just coming into this and you're driving down the road or you're walking through the woods and you see a track, key point that I tell people, if you want to get everything out of the way and cut it right down to the nuts and bolts, take your phone out, set it on camera, on video. Most people know how to zoom in a camera on video, zoom out a camera on video. Put that thing on record, step back away from the track, walk into the track, lay something down beside the track, take video of all your surroundings, do it all in video. Key point, do it all in video. A video is nothing but a conglomerate of multiple still shots. If you have that in a video format, you can always take that to somebody or even do it yourself and pull out each frame at a time. And that video will do 90% of what we're talking about. If you just leave it on video and do the different angles that we're talking about, if you're just coming into this thing, you know, right off the bat. But the stuff that it's taken me, you know, years to figure out the DSLR. I mean, I would say that's more advanced. Same principle with your camera. 95% of the people know how to run a camcorder, and they're so simple. I love camcorders because you just have them, like Israel said, they're locked into your hand. They got good audio. You can talk, and that's the main thing too. You're doing three things that we talked about in a prior show. You're documenting, talk to it, tell us what you're seeing. I see a track here. Well, this is what this looks like. And if you've got any crazy ideas, well, maybe it stepped this direction. Speak it. If your observations, talk about it. You know, we talk all the time about notebooks. Well, I'm big about notebooks, but a lot of times I'll just talk, if I'm shooting from the hip, you know, what we call running and gunning, I'll just talk into my phone with it on video, and that's a documentation. It irks me when people take one picture. Woohoo! I got a picture of this big footprint.
Yeah.
And they don't tell none of the backstory. They don't tell none of where it was going, what it was doing, what they observed. I understand you might have found one print, and that's all you found. But here's the key point. I've seen it too many times in this business, it's not a business for me, but in this field that how many times me and you see stuff on Joe DeHoya's Sam Houston videos that he didn't catch because he's just panning around? How many times have you caught them on my video? How many times have I caught them on yours?
Exactly.
If you're doing the video and you're documenting, you can always go back and rewatch it. To me,
and I've caught it myself. You know, just taking pictures of the wood line. I do that all the time personally.
Yeah.
Just take pictures of the wood line. Then check them out after. You may see something you didn't notice before.
Absolutely. I mean, anybody that's been in this field for any period of time knows of Scott Carpenter, how he caught all the stuff with the camera on his back. And some of the stuff he's got is pretty prolific.
Yes.
And just for the simple fact that he films everything. How many videos of we see of the target species, there's people filming their kids playing in the yard, or film them, you know, skiing, like the whitewater rafters that the one stepped up and walked off. The 4th of July Independence Day footage, they was just out filming. You know, I tell people, if you don't want to concentrate on myself, I do everything. I do it in stages. I do the video inlaid, I do photographs, I do everything. But documentation, document. I know Israel says practice, but documentation, because
documentation is key.
Yeah. I had my sighting in 2016, my main sighting. And the first thing I did was I sat down and I wrote it out while it's fresh on my mind, you know, because the story might change over time. You know, we have so many people that just don't document. Oh, I found this track and took a picture of it. Okay. why don't you put, and I'm saying this is not as a derogatory term. I'm saying this is an
Mhm.
endearment to people that we need to up our level of
Yes.
for the target species, not for our own credibility, but
Right.
for the proving of this target species' existence. We're going to have to up level our, and I'm not saying that I'm any better than nobody else, because I'm not. There's a lot of folks out here that's a lot better than me, but we're going to have to up our level of investigative skills and documentative skills. And that's where we're bringing Israel in, because it's what he does for a living. And here I am doing all the talking. He needs to be doing the talking. But
No, I'm a man of few words. Yeah, absolutely. So I would tell the audience or whoever's getting into this field or is in the field already, one, like you just said, documentation is key, and to treat every time that you come upon evidence as if you were going to testify against it or with
Absolutely.
it, right? If you got only one print, they're going to chew you alive, because they're going to say, what didn't you do? Well, you didn't properly document it. Now, if you properly document it, you can sit back and start laughing, because you did everything. I did X, Y, and Z. I took pictures. I walked around. Like you were talking about walking and talking with the camcorder. They absolutely do that. But then I would advise to also just be quiet for a second and let the camcorder go, and then you can get the sounds. You get a lot of sounds.
Absolutely.
But let's face it, one picture of a track is, I mean, my opinion, to make something, what's the word I'm looking for here? The
legitimacy is questionable.
Yes, it's questionable, but yes, hardcore. That's why, if you can find more than that one footprint, or at least another piece of evidence that you think might tie into that
with it, absolutely.
Right. Yes.
And I love how me and Israel and all of us talked about it the other night, man. We put people on death row for less evidence than we have of the existence of the target species.
That's right.
Because we have a certain set standardized procedures, correct, Israel?
Yeah.
Of how they collected the evidence.
Yeah.
Israel said something earlier about just a few minutes ago about, how they'll rip it apart. To me, in this community, you better be on your game.
You
better have a higher standard, or they're just gonna laugh at you.
Yes.
To me, the best, the most epitomal piece of evidence there is the Patterson Gimlin film, and they're still ripping that apart.
They're still ripping it to pieces. Yep. Absolutely. Especially even when, even so, there's more than you get the video, and then the tracks on the scene. I mean, even with more than one form of evidence there, I mean, still being, like you said, Gary, still being ripped apart.
Israel said something earlier, and this is part of that tracking in me. I had the great opportunity of going to southeastern Oklahoma with a group of guys, great group of guys, and I still like a lot of them, and some of them that I've just kind of grown apart from. But we was down there, and we found a trackway, and there was a gentleman out of Texas that had brought some surveying flags, because I had talked to him about it, and all these guys kind of looked at me funny when me and the certain individual, and I'm not going to say their names because out of respect for some of them were that way, but we every piece of evidence we found, we took one of those little surveying, the little like utility markers, so the plastic flags you buy at Lowe's, you can get 10 of them for $1, and put it on each piece of evidence. And I started taking pictures, and as I was tracking, as I seen something, I'd put one down.
Okay.
And I was trying to find the pictures. They're on my other computer, but I could probably edit them in. But when you stepped back at about 30 yards and looked at this, you literally seen the trail for almost 100 yards running down that hill. And people, and these guys are like, why are you doing this? Well, I've been doing this for years with the Department of Corrections. I've been doing this in my own sense, like, Israel saying you always mark everything. Are y'all still using the dots
to mark them at the scene?
Yeah.
No, they got flags. It's like either red, yellow. Well, it depends on the office, but it's a little flag with plastic little disposable. Yeah.
Folks, go buy a bunch of dots, the little stick-on dots, and stick them. As long as you can document it one way or the other. If you're out in the woods and you don't have nothing, break a twig off.
That I've
Step
done it many
away
times.
from the scene. Step away from the scene. Key point: step away from the scene. Go break some limbs off. Bring them into the scene and put them. Don't break them at the scene. But
right, but
document that you did that though, because in years later, if you didn't document it, you're like, why did he do that? Why did he put a piece of wood there and it was you who did it? You know what I'm saying? So again, document as you go. One thing that I wanted to show, like before I forget, if you have time, once you identify the area, I like to create a sheet that you take a picture of, and it can be as simple as this. Can you see it there?
Yes.
So you'll have your time. You write the time on there, the location. If you know it on your phone, you get the lat and long, the date, possible coordinates like northeast, south, wherever it's facing, and that'll help you out. Because if you're taking hundreds of pictures, sometimes you go back and you're like, oh man, where did we start? But if you have something simple like this, it'll break it down. And once you start seeing pictures after this, you'll say, okay, so now I can control what I'm looking at. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I mean, you can even add weather conditions to that, right? I mean, that piece of the piece of paper you just showed. I mean, you can even add weather at time of
absolutely.
And I get it that digital captures, like most of the cameras, you can tell it to capture GPS and stuff like that. So you don't really have to do it, but I guess it's just
well, the beauty
it's something in us already.
The way you're doing it though, Israel, and that was something that we was actually going to talk a little bit on the private side, but I will tease it here. I've been working on for about 2 years an app. I just haven't had anybody tech savvy enough I've got all the parameters out in Excel format, in an Excel spreadsheet, to where you just enter the information. You see what I'm saying? Just like what you're saying, it's the same forms that y'all have used. Matter of fact, I got mine from I'm sure it is Department of Corrections. But make a long story short, document. I'm a true believer, because if you're in the field, you can talk a lot easier and you can write. Audio record and talk and say it's so and so degrees temperatures. This is where we're at. This is where we're coming from, and then come home like he was saying with the sheet. And I would recommend anybody. I hate to throw their name until we can get ours going. The BRFO has a great standard format form for sightings, and you don't have to submit it to them. Just print it out, write everything down, and keep it for your own file.
Absolutely.
Or it's documentation. I mean, I'm almost to the point now. I've been doing this, and I hate to say this, I've been doing this 20 plus years, and I hear so many reports doing the shows that we do, and don't take me wrong, people, I love hearing your stories, but I'd be like, well, what was you doing? Well, we was out and we found a track. Okay, where was you coming from? What time of day was it? And they feel like that I'm trying to interrogate them. Yes. And it really hurts my feelings as an interviewer. And I heard Wes Grammer even say that one time, and he said, I just let them talk the way they want to talk, and I'll ask certain questions. But folks, we're not trying to interrogate you. We're not trying to disprove you at all. We're trying to do just the opposite. We're trying to glean a little bit of information from each person that we talk to. I mean, you're the same way, Israel, in your scope of business. I'm not trying to prove you innocent or not innocent. I'm just trying to get the information.
Right. So what you got to put in your mindset that you're fact finding. That is your job. You're fact finding. You can't be biased on anything. Yeah. So you're just fact finding. And one of the big things that when you said that to record yourself talking, go ahead and throw in there to talk about the smells that you potentially have on that area. And I was talking and I asked Jerimiah the other day if there's a certain smell about if their urine has a specific smell. Or body odors that people, say, hey, I remember smelling this particular way. And then you can document all that. And then further down the line, 2 or 3 people said that they smelled some, like, let's say for example, rotten eggs or something, right? I spent some rotten eggs when I was in the area, and then somebody else says the same thing, a couple miles down. So again, and then this will be the next few classes. It's when you collect all that and you put it into a product that you can see on a map, and you can either do pie charts or you can do nice little charts with Excel, and we could talk about that later. But yeah, this is I think this has been a productive one. The next few are going to be actually, because again, we can't put everything in 30 minutes, 30, 40 minutes of what we've learned for the camera, because it's just so much. I know Gary we could be here 2-3 weeks teaching all the stuff that for the camera. So for the intricate parts of cameras, like we said, practice. Go ahead and familiarize yourself with your equipment, because Gary has a certain way he uses his cameras, and I got my certain way that I use my camera, and neither are wrong. It just works. One way works for him, and the other way works for me, which is perfect.
And the beauty of all that is I can learn from Israel. Israel can learn from me.
Absolutely.
There is no who's better than who, because you might have something that you've learned that I need, and I might have something, and that's what this community is about. That's what we're trying to I would say preach, but push is let's learn.
That's a good point. And that, and that doesn't go just for the camera aspect of it either. It's for the whole,
it's everything. Yep.
Everything. Some people, everyone. I think it's great. I mean, everyone learning from one another. That's the way it's got to be if we're going to get anywhere in this field.
Because going back to the other night, where we were talking about somebody, I'm not going to mention names again, but somebody said that they take the leaves out of the print, and right. So I was thinking about this whole time. So we're taught not to touch anything, right? We're taught not to disturb anything, any of the prints or anything. But then again, you have to ask yourself, what's the purpose behind collection? If your purpose is DNA, then by all means you should be collecting, the leaves and stuff like that. But if your purpose is to collect the print itself, then very carefully you can move some of the stuff so you can get that print. So again, you have to have that in the back of your mind. What is the purpose behind it? So.
Point.
Yeah. Israel brought up a point earlier when we was talking about the cameras and about the practicing, and me from a spectrum, just on a personal note about hunting. Most of this community is hunters, and when I came back from the military, I've been an avid hunter all my life, but I found a new enjoyment in photography, wildlife photography, and outdoor photography, for the simple fact I'm not taking away from the planet. I'm not taking a life. I'm just documenting what they're doing. And there's so many more challenges. And if I could encourage anybody to get into wildlife photography, there's so many more things you can do with these cameras, like Israel was saying, that you can do with a rifle. A rifle and a scope is a very destructive force to be reckoned with. And don't take me wrong, I'm pro hunt all the way. I mean, I harvest my own food. But I guarantee you, for every time that I raise a scope to an animal, about 4,000 to 5,000 times I'm raising a camera, for the simple fact that you can do so much more. And folks, that is a very good way to learn, even with your phones and stuff. We all do it, but if you're out and take pictures of deer behind trees, take pictures of deer laying down, some of the funnest I've ever had was out watching my neighbor's cats with a camera and taking pictures of them stalking other animals. And you talk about learning.
That's awesome.
Learning how it's done, and how
absolutely
getting down on the ground and trying to recreate a lion coming out of the safari brush with a tabby cat in a backyard.
I watch my cat do it all the time with mice. It's amazing. Just to sit there and watch it, and you're watching. You think of a house cat as nothing, but that's a predator. And you learn a lot.
Here's a pretty good challenge I tell people. Most people are pretty urban. Go to your local park with your cell phone. sit down, look in the trees, and start finding squirrels. I got a challenge for people. See if you can take 25 pictures of 25 different squirrels in one day. I can't do it in my hardwood forest on my farm because they're hard to find. But that's good practice. You know, I know it sounds silly, but it's also pretty damn fun.
And that again comes, we go back to the lens you have, because if you got one of them nice telescopic lens, and when we say telescopic, that means you can go further out. I mean, sometimes I'll be eating outside, sitting on on close to the door, and again, like I can get the squirrel, I can see his eyes with the lens I got. I mean, it's awesome. It feels good to see that the power that you have in documentation and photography. And then
It's
with
awesome.
everything else that we're going to teach too, once you collect and everything like that, I'm excited to see where this goes.
I am too.
For sure.
I tell you, personal project I've been working on for about 4 years, and I'm not pushing it real hard, but I look on topographical maps and find the highest elevations of any area, certain areas, and then I get on top of it with my 2,000 millimeter zoom, and I just start pan and shoot all the
That's
waterways,
awesome.
all of the ponds, and I haven't caught a squatch yet, but I've dang sure caught a lot of beautiful ducks at beautiful shots at even Dan the Drill's like, wow, at 500-600 yards, but I'm thinking if we're ever going to get a real good shot of a squatch, it's going to be from half a mile to a mile away with a zoom lens.
You're gonna have to.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to. Yeah.
That's just a little project I've been working with because we love to do it anyway, But and folks, you don't have to have the fancy. Matter of fact, I'm fixing to invest in before too long, and they got a little water. Nikon puts out I'm a Nikon fanatic. I'm sorry, but they put out a waterproof Coolpix. It's got 20 millimeter zoom. 20 times digital zoom. For the simple fact, I can throw it in my pocket, jump in the water if I want to. I can come up out of the water and see. That's another thing we haven't got to yet is waterside, water crossing, water documentation. That's in my personal opinion, the most lacking that everybody's been doing is they'll just take pictures from the bank. You need to get in the water and take pictures of 360 degrees all the way around this. And you can document tracks in the water also. And Israel, we'll talk about that offline. I got some cast collection questions for you.
And then going back to what you said you hit something before I have to take off, but you said something really big a little while ago that you put the camera at 8 feet to put the perspective. There's the thing that we say in our community, think like the criminal, right?
Yeah.
And you can catch a criminal by thinking like if you think like a cop or if you think like an investigator, you're never going to get anybody. You got to think like the thing that you're tracking down. So if it looks like it was laying down, get your butt down and start taking pictures of everywhere to see where he was looking.
I might have to edit this out, but we used to say quite a bit. You know what the only difference in between a good cop and a good criminal?
It was a criminal before that they got caught.
A badge.
A match?
Badge.
Oh, a badge. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Because you think about it,
I just say that because they got caught.
And once again, folks, I know we're using, of course, with my background and Israel's background, but we have to relate back to that because we're both military and we're both, in that kind of field. But it straight across the board, investigation is investigations. Scientific, biochemical, or biogenetic scientifics. The formats is the same. Document, control everything you can, document what you can't control. Over a period of time, if you're investigating the same thing, no matter what it is, if you get enough documentations of everything that you can't control over a period of time, that list of what you can't control becomes controlled because you see the same parameters across the board.
Yep, we see a pattern.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you giving this time, and we'll talk about the next one offline, and what we're going to do for the next one.
Absolutely. All right, guys. That was awesome. Everyone out there, hope you enjoyed that, and you'll be getting many more. I assure you of that. Gentlemen, have a great day.
Thank you.